You're listening to the Quint podcast.
Fuel prices are climbing at a record high when the economy is at a record low. Cost of fuel has increased 23 times since 4th May in what seems like almost every other day. While petrol rates have surged past ₹100 in 6 states and a union territory, diesel prices have also surpassed ₹100 for the first time, with Sri Ganganagar, a small city in Rajasthan, being the first city in the country where both petrol and diesel prices crossed the century mark. And just to put it into perspective, if on 3rd May petrol in Delhi was selling at ₹90.55 paise a litre, while diesel was selling at ₹80.91 paise, as of 14th June, petrol costs ₹95.56 paise per litre in the capital and diesel ₹86.47 a litre. In Mumbai, a litre of petrol now costs ₹101.76 and diesel ₹93.85 per litre. While Oil Minister Dharmendra Pradhan did agree that the price hikes are a problem, he also said that a lot of money has been spent on COVID vaccines, Mantri Gareeb Kalyan Yojana and PM Kisan, justifying that, and I'm quoting him, quote, "In such dire times, we're saving money to spend on welfare schemes," end quote. He also pointed fingers at opposition-ruled states and suggested that states like Maharashtra and Rajasthan could just reduce the sales tax levied on fuel to cut down the price. Now, it's a well-known fact that India's taxes on petrol and diesel are one of the highest in the world, which contributes to the high cost of fuel. But why isn't the government doing anything to curb it? We spoke to independent political commentator Amitabh Tiwari for this episode. You're tuned in to The Big Story, the podcast where we dissect the headline-making news for you. And I'm your host, Shaulburi. It goes without saying that the spike in fuel rates is coming at a very bad time for Indians. We have witnessed a decline in household consumption in the pandemic as many Indian families have had to tighten their purse strings owing to job losses and dip in incomes in 2020. Moreover, at least 23 crore Indians lost their livelihoods and were pushed to poverty since the onset of the pandemic, and a lot of them being migrant workers and women labourers. And in addition to the economic woes of the Aam Janta, the uptick in fuel costs will push inflation higher. In May alone, India's wholesale price inflation jumped to a record 12.94%, up from 10.5% in April, which was largely driven by the surge in petrol, diesel and LPG. But before we talk about what the government can do about it, let's understand what pushes fuel prices higher. The first thing is crude oil prices, and that has risen quite a bit in 2021 from increased demand as economies are trying to recover. Currently, Brent crude oil costs around $71 to $72 a barrel, about $20 more than it cost in the beginning of 2021. And since India imports about 82% of crude oil, higher prices mean higher import costs as well. And accordingly, the price for petrol and diesel is revised. Then there are taxes, both central and state. In India, the bulk of the fuel cost is just taxes. In Delhi, for example, taxes make up for almost 60% of the cost of petrol and more than 50% of the cost of diesel. And that's why sometimes, even though crude oil prices fall, Indian citizens don't get to enjoy the benefit to the fullest because of the VAT and excise duty. And that's exactly what happened earlier in 2020, if you remember. The crude oil prices had dropped owing to the pandemic, but the centre decided to raise the excise duty on petrol by ₹13 per litre and diesel by ₹16 per litre in a bid to increase revenues, which makes it ₹32.9 per litre excise duty on petrol and ₹31.8 on diesel. So our citizens never got to enjoy the low fuel costs. And then there are differing state taxes, which is what makes fuel prices different in different states. Certain states like Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan levy higher VAT, while early in February this year, West Bengal, Assam and Meghalaya decided to cut state taxes to provide some relief to citizens. Out of all the three states, Meghalaya was the one that offered the biggest cut of ₹7.4 a litre on petrol and ₹7.10 on diesel. And that's how ₹100 has become the new normal for fuel prices in several states. But the big question is, why haven't we seen a price cut yet? Mr. Amitabh Tiwari points out that fuel taxes have become a big revenue earner for the government, especially in the pandemic.
The government is not cutting fuel taxes because they have become an important source of revenue for the government. More so in the pandemic year, as in last year, the excise duty collection on fuels were 20% of the income tax and GST collections. This number used to be around 10% 3-4 years back. See, this is lazy economics, and once you get used to easy money, then it is very difficult to let it go. What this government strategy has been that they have not passed on the decline in fuel prices to the end consumer. So since 2014, the crude prices have declined by almost 25%, whereas the petrol price has increased by 35%. And if the excise duty rates and the VAT rates charged by the central and state governments were at the same levels as in 2014, the petrol price today would have been around 60 rupees per litre. See, our tax collections have been impacted by the COVID. Even this year, the tax collections are likely to be lower than budgeted because the impact of the second wave was not factored in, and we have announced a fiscal deficit target of 6.8%. So if the excise duty is reduced, it can have an impact on revenues and then on the deficit and then on our ratings. So there is not much room for the government left this year. See, when the everything was going hunky dory and the government does not passed on the benefit to the end consumer, now in a difficult year, it is very unlikely that the government can do much about it.
While the Congress held a nationwide protest on 12 June against the price hikes, BJP leaders have asked why doesn't the Congress reduce the VAT in at least the Congress-ruled states first? But it would be remiss to not point out that the central government hasn't reduced the taxes either, despite the RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das himself requesting both states and centre to coordinate and cut down taxes on petrol and diesel, as fuel hikes will also increase the cost of manufacturing and transportation, among other things. While the centre and opposition states point fingers at each other, the fuel price hike is already impacting low-income households. According to Reuters, for a citizen earning the average national wage, a litre of petrol would eat up a quarter of their daily income. Now, the government says that they are saving money for welfare schemes, but what can they do about fuel being so expensive in India? Mr. Tiwari says that there are some avenues the government could look into, obvious ones such as reducing excise duty, asking state governments to reduce the VAT, or include fuel under GST. But there's a catch in all these three options. And as a part of long-term solutions, they could push for alternate energy.
In terms of actions, there are 3-4 avenues available to the government. One is, of course, reduce the excise duty, which has almost tripled since 2014. But as we have discussed above, this is fairly difficult in the current scenario. The second is it can ask the state governments to reduce the VAT. So since the fuel prices are out of GST regime, the central as well as the state governments impose taxes on it. Even the VAT of the states has increased or has almost doubled in this period. Now again, these finances of the state government have also been badly impacted by the pandemic, and they are dependent upon the center for help. So again, states will find it difficult to reduce VAT, and for this the center has to first take action. It has to first take the first step. The other option available is that it can push for inclusion of the fuel products in GST. That's also going to lead to a loss of revenues. As per a research by SBI Capital, the prices of petrol could be in the region of 75, so 25 rupees lower than currently. So this also will lead to a loss of revenues, and it also has the same issues which the government is facing while reducing excise duty or while reducing VAT. The government is pushing for alternate fuels. It has given incentives for manufacturers of electric cars as well as buyers. However, these are long-term solutions and these will take time to materialize, and they will not have an immediate impact on the fuel prices.
But if the fuel costs continue to spike the way it is and it's left unchecked, is it likely to have political implications, especially in the vital upcoming state elections in UP?
See, political parties worry mostly about elections, and we don't have any immediate elections. The elections are due only next year, sometime in Feb and March. We've also seen that during the elections this year, the fuel prices were not hiked for a period of around 15-16 days. Fuel prices have a cascading impact on inflation. So now, since diesel is also above 100 in many cities, this is likely to impact the cost of freight and in turn lead to an increase in prices of goods and services. With lower incomes due to the pandemic, this is pinching people hard, and this could lead to dissatisfaction. The government possibly is hoping that with an increased supplies, increase in supplies coming from Iran and some other countries, this will lead to lower crude oil prices, and this might help to soothe the impact of prices in India. However, since in economics everything is linked, if this is not left unchecked and the prices continue to rise, inflation will rise, and then RBI will be forced to increase rates, which will impact growth. So all these factors will have to be taken into account.
If you like listening to this episode, please subscribe to the Big Story playlist for episodic updates. We're live on Apple, Google Podcast, Spotify, JioSaavn, and most of the other popular podcast streaming platforms. For other podcasts, please log on to the Quint website and check out the podcast section. For any feedback, shoot an email to podcast@thequint.com.
Thanks for listening. Log on to the Quint's website and check out our other podcasts.